dreaming today. Welcome to the Gig Boss Podcast, a show about artistry and industry and music. My name's Adam Meckler, and it's my mission to get you the tools to have a thriving career. I spent the weekend hanging out with Rex Richardson, the great virtuoso trumpet soloist who toured with Joe Henderson and basically tours all over the world, premiering insane trumpet works, stuff that's written for like the kind of stuff that only a few trumpet players in the world can do physically. Pretty wild. He's like this crazy virtuoso, amazing dude. He's become a good friend over the years, and I did actually turn on the microphones. We went to my office, we turned on the microphones, and we talked for the podcast. So that's going to come out in a week. This conversation today is with the great Kai Sandoval. Kai is a New York City-based trumpeter who is a full-time player. He's a full-time player in the scene. He doesn't have to teach if he doesn't want to. He's crushing the social media game. We talked a little bit about how he built his social media numbers, but also we talked about how he got plugged in the scene in New York City, how he made the transition moving from a different city to New York City, and how he makes his living right now, how he's able to pay his bills in New York on a full-time playing schedule, right, as a trumpet player. And it's pretty interesting the avenues that Kai has been able to carve out. I think you're going to dig this conversation. We talk a lot about where confidence comes from. Kai just seems like a confident person. Of course, trumpet players kind of have that mentality anyway, and I think somehow that's built into the instrument. That's built into playing trumpet because it's really hard to hide. So from the time that you're a young player, you're a fifth grader playing trumpet, it's like you can't hide your mistakes. And in order to play trumpet at a high level, so you kind of have to pretend like you're the baddest trumpet player in the world. And I mean that baddest meaning good, right? You gotta pretend like even if you're not, so you gotta have to have that kind of killer instinct in order to play the instrument at a high level. And knowing that you can't hide your mistakes, it kind of pushes you into that mindset. It pushes you into the mindset of all right, everyone's going to hear this anyway. And so I just talked to Kai a little bit about how he developed that in himself. And we talked a little bit about the differences between being an entertainer and how that's viewed in some communities versus being an artist, versus being, an instrumentalist, versus being a side player. It's there's a lot of nuances to being a performer. And I think each one of those little facets of being a performer is really important to consider. Even if you're somebody who considers yourself somebody who only does art music, right? Which is a lot of what I've done in my career. I think it's really important to consider how are you presenting your music? What's the performance like? Are you an entertainer? Are you meant to be entertaining people? And I think the answer is yes. It's a tough one, It's a lot of people are people should come just for my music, and it's well, yeah, I mean, there's definitely an entertainment factor. That's why they're coming to the show, to be entertained. And so what your definition of entertainment is can be different, gig to gig, person to person. And I got to talk to Kai a little bit about that. But talking to him about where confidence comes from, I think is a really deep and interesting conversation that we got into a little bit. Before we go too far, I want to tell you a little bit about the Gig Boss app because things are cooking here. We just made a down payment with our coding company to build out the books page. Okay, so this is a really big development in where the app is going. You're going to be able to track all of your financials and eventually export those things so you can see how much you made with each individual band you play in, your totals on the year, your totals of money in, totals of money out, who you paid more than $600 to, who paid you more than $600. These have all been in the original plans of the app, and we just haven't had the funds to build it yet. And we're there. We've been raising money, going super hard so that we can get you guys this tool that's incredibly valuable. It's already doing really a great job of organizing the scheduling side of managing multiple bands or being a freelancer in multiple bands. So if that describes you, it's free on iOS and Android right now. That's a really exciting development for us. And if you dig what we do here on the podcast, if you dig what I'm doing as an artist, as a player, you want to support what we're doing, and you're a player, download the app. It's free. Use it to organize your stuff, and then send me an email, adam@gigbossapp.com, and let me know what you think. All right, so this is my conversation with Kai Sandoval.
Well, thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise. We've never had an informal
No, we've had
conversation.
nothing.
So
This is it. We're jumping right in.
yeah. I've always I've seen your path for about the last 10 years, and it's very cool. It's cool to see your hustle, and it's very cool to see like you playing with Youngblood and doing all those awesome gigs. I think you played with Corey Wong recently.
Yeah. I'm on 3 of his records. Like some of the early ones, The Optimist and Motivational Music for the Syncopated Soul, and then I did the like Dave Koz thing.
Nice.
In the fall of it was like fall of before vaccination time.
Mm-hmm.
That was wild. That was like Corey was like, "We're doing it." I was like, "All
Right. Yeah.
here we go."
Yeah. Everyone was so pumped before the pandemic.
Yeah.
It was like the brightest years, and then all of a sudden, lights out.
Yeah. Are you like finding that you're working now more than you were before, or like as much as you were?
Yeah, I'm working more than I was before.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people may have this in common, but I was doing a whole lot of a big spread of different stuff. I was running Shaghorns with my partner Chris Ott, and then I was just doing like the local New York club scene circuit with different bands like Afrobeat and reggae and all sorts of stuff, and brass bands. And then the pandemic shut everything down, and then I started doing a ton of Jewish weddings. And then Shaghorn started taking off. We had like our most busy, lucrative year last year.
Cool.
A lot of weddings on catch up. And then I played with Ripe for a couple years. So I was basically just like balancing the 3 of those things and working more than I should have.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Tell me about Shaghorns. What kind of stuff does Shaghorns do?
Shaghorns. So, I mean, I started that as kind of like a premier horn section in Boston before I moved to New York.
Yeah.
I was thinking like, well, if I'm going to move to New York, I need to like have something to call my own, something to like bring to the scene.
Yeah.
And so now it's kind of evolved into a brass band, and Chris is an amazing arranger, and he's done all the arrangements, and we're creatively and business wise, we're running it together and everything. And so we kind of blew up this spot called Radagast. It's like a beer hall in Williamsburg.
Nice.
And all of the 20-something-year-olds living in white Disneyland out there.
Yeah.
They're all like, standing on the tables, smashing beer glasses and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So then, from there, we're getting recommendations for weddings and corporate events and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. So are you focusing your energy on those kinds of money-making opportunities, or are you guys trying to tour and like do records, increase Spotify numbers? Like what's your motivation with that group?
Right. At the moment it's kind of a relief. We're kind of just focusing on like the business aspect of it. We're playing all covers. So before the pandemic, I was a little bit more focused on, let's go tour with this thing. Let's be like, a ragtag bunch of brass players doing the tour thing. And then I kind of realized, that's a lot of work and it doesn't pay. And it takes a long time to work on that. And then the pandemic cut that all down. And then we're getting all these, wedding contracts that are going to pay more than doing a tour anyways. So we're just kind of keeping it in the commercial pocket.
Cool. Yeah. With Youngblood, it was like I stepped into that when it was already really happening. And so, but they did 10 months a year on the road in the early 2000s, just like sleeping on floors and like really, grinding to build up their audiences. And like that now it's obviously like they can book tours, but it's still it's a 10-piece band. So it still takes like 6 weeks on the road to even, like it takes, I don't know, what is it, 3 weeks to break even and then 3 more weeks to make money. It's like, it's that much.
Man.
If you're going to go to Europe, it's like, it takes that much of playing just to break even. And then it's like,
we
got to be on the road at least 5-6 weeks if we're going to make any money. It's kind of
Right.
nuts.
Yeah. And then of course, like if you're doing the European tour, it's probably like what, 5% of people who are going out there who are actually making good money doing it.
Yeah.
And then it's a whole bunch of like festival fillers and clubs and stuff like that. So,
I mean, it's pretty badass to be over there. It's pretty.
It is.
But I never had to do. I mean, I've done it with other bands where we tried to like really bootstrap it and build audiences on the road. But I was lucky to just be like in the right place at the right time. They needed a trumpet player, and I was kind of playing brass band music, and I was in the area. It's just like just worked.
That's perfect.
Which was cool. So you're full time. Are you full time player?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Sick.
I mean, yeah, dude. The last 2 years I've been definitely hustling my butt off. Yep. And between the travel and everything, some months I've only had like 3 days off in a month during like the summer months. So my New Year's resolution is don't work so hard.
Sure.
But that kind of crumbled in February, and I'm like, okay, take it down a notch. If I could keep it to like, 4 gigs a week, that'd be perfect.
Sure. And I've told the story before, but I remember when I was playing full time. I'm not playing full time anymore. When I was playing full time, I did a month where, I played a show every day, multiple shows some days, and then it was the month of July, and then like my birthday hit, and I was broke, and I was like, "What, dude? What do I got to do to like? I can't play any more than I'm playing." I mean, it was such a man. It was such an eye opener. It was like there has to be. So I guess my question for you is like, you're doing corporate events, you're doing that kind of stuff. Is that where you get the beef of your income? Are you teaching at all as like a side thing to bring in any other income? Are you doing anything else that you have passive income from some other lane that you're relying on?
Passive income, no, not so much. I think everybody did their research on the stock market and crypto and all that stuff.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm trying to work that angle, but the bulk of my income comes from Jewish weddings. I know it's kind of, I don't want to like give it away for the rest of the world, but it's a pretty dope scene. And to be honest, it pays much better than Broadway. And it's like,
wow.
Yeah. And the schedule is like Sunday through Thursday for these like Orthodox weddings and stuff.
Interesting. And so you got like end of the week and weekends off, kind of. Friday, Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, if I choose to have like Friday, Saturday off.
And by that, I mean like you can play other gigs, like you can play non-wedding gigs theoretically on a Friday and a Saturday,
Right. Or have a night off. Yeah.
Or have a night off. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you Jewish? Is that like part of your history?
No, it's just kind of this thing I stumbled upon. I probably 3-4 years ago, I subbed into this band called Blue Melody at this venue called the Sands. And
don't give it all away, man. Don't.
I know. It's like, why not? I'll reveal it. Who's gonna listen? Sure. Who's gonna listen to this in full? We'll see.
Yeah.
And then move out to New York.
Right.
But yeah, I was playing with all these guys like Yitzi, Shlomi, Chaim, Femi, like all these. For us, it's like we're completely green to this whole thing. And playing with this band the first time, the sax player named John Tendy, who I swear is like one of the nastiest tenor players you'd ever hear, but he plays only Jewish weddings, so you probably wouldn't hear him in a lot of other settings. And then the drummer was super nasty. I was like, this is like a top 40 corporate gig on steroids.
Yep.
And like the tempos are all like 120 to 130 BPM and fast 16th note horn lines and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
that's fun stuff. I played in a band called Klezmerica in Minneapolis for a while, and it was led by this guy Joe Voss, and he ended up writing a show called The Soul of Gershwin that was like all about how George Gershwin was Jewish and used a lot of like music from the old country, music from the shtetl, music from the synagogue as melodies for tunes we now know as jazz tunes like Summertime and stuff. And so he would do like he would have like a Jewish cantor sing what they would sing in the synagogue, and then have like a jazz singer sing the jazz version of the tune. And that was like basically the premise of the show. And there was a guy that played George Gershwin that narrated. It was cool, and the band was on stage, and we would play all this klezmer stuff, and it's all like what you're describing, high energy, fast lines.
Right.
I listened to a bunch to that, like Dave Douglas, John Zorn, Masada band for a little while. I don't know if you're hip to that, but it's some cool
bit,
stuff. Yeah. But yeah, that's cool, man. It's an interesting lane that you've found, man.
It is. It's a super niche sort of thing. Yeah. And you know what keeps me sane is like the horn players on those gigs they're all like top-notch guys. And, you know, we all keep each other on our toes.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those gigs that we're not like, you know, sometimes it's a little bit corny, but you know, sometimes through the pandemic, it definitely kept my chops in shape. It's like a lot of playing and, you know, and you're doing your soft playing in the ceremony, like ballad kind of playing, and then you're doing some background, and then you're doing a lot of in your face, loud kind of stuff. So it's a good balance. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your background. Like you said you were in Boston. Did you go to NEC? Is that right?
Yeah, I went to NEC for 6 years. I did a bachelor's and a master's out there. And yeah, by the time I was doing my master's, I felt a little bit guilty. I was so distracted with like, you know, just playing out, and didn't hit the shed as hard as I wanted to. But yeah, I mean, I got busy pretty quickly, and then I stuck around another year and a half. And Boston it's a beautiful scene. There's a lot of super heavy cats out there. But I was just kind of seeing like it was starting to get a little stagnant, you know,
like you felt like you were hitting a ceiling or what?
Yeah, I was hitting the ceiling. I was kind of maxed out with my time and being places physically and my income and stuff like that. And I wasn't like getting touring opportunities or like bigger opportunities. So I was like, yeah, let's go to New York and let's get an address, but not live there.
Really? Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
because you're on the road.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, I want to be traveling. I want to be doing like, you know, hip shit and, you know, making a mark and getting challenged. Yeah.
So was the transition difficult going from Boston to New York?
Yeah, it was hugely difficult, I would say. I had a lot of fun doing it. I was basically just fed up with gigging full time, and I had like a savings, and I just hit the clubs for like 6 months.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I had a
nice.
subletter. Yeah. I had a subletter in my room, and he didn't clean up. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to clean tonight. I'm just going to go out. And then that just kept up for like 3 or 4 months in a row. And I was like, you know, as long as there's music at the bar, like I'm being productive. As long as I'm meeting musicians, you know, and having fun.
Yeah, there you go. That's cool. So that feel like, oh, I got that out of my system, but now I can work 900 days a year? Or do you feel like you need another a club phase?
Yeah, I feel like everybody kind of needs like that break from reality.
Yeah.
Like ongoing, like once every couple years, you need like a couple months just to fuck around and have a lot of fun.
Were you playing your horn a bunch then?
Yeah. I was definitely playing a lot, but I was mostly just like going to jam sessions, meeting people. And then like summer came around, and I had a full-time wedding band that still wanted me on their schedule. So, you know, whatever I spent, I made it up during the summertime. And then the next year I told myself, all right, I'm cutting it off, cutting Boston off, sticking around, you know, sink or swim. Yeah.
I had a buddy that did the same move from Boston to New York, and then he was back in Boston a ton playing because he wasn't finding work. But it's like, it's interesting that you're going out, you're going to shows, you're going to jam sessions. It's like, that's like a huge period of time of networking too. Like you're meeting people, you know, so then it's like you have that concentrated period of like, here I am, I'm in the city, and work came thereafter. I mean, not, and then you were working pretty much consistently after that?
Yeah, I mean, progress is never a straight line,
Mm-hmm.
and it ebbed and flowed. You know,
Yeah.
there's always moments of frustration, feeling like, you know, I'm at this level, I can perform great, but how do I put myself out there so people are actually seeing that? You know,
Yeah.
music, unfortunately, the music business, it's not a meritocracy. So it's not necessarily the best musicians get the best jobs.
Right.
It's cliquey. There's lots of politics. Um, for a long time, I was thinking, oh yeah, my path is going to be breaking into the Broadway scene and then going from there. But it's, you know, Broadway is super cliquey.
Yeah.
It's a lot of older cats, and you know, they can really play. But everybody who has a job that's worth keeping is going to hold on to it. So, so there was a period after about like 2 years of being in New York. It was very touch and go. Sometimes I was getting a lot of gigs, but then the cost of living in New York and parking tickets and having a car and all that stuff, it just became like overwhelming. So I hit a cruise ship for a couple months. And then luckily after that, like everything just kind of snowballed and picked up pretty quickly.
Wow.
So, yeah. So since about like 2019, I've been doing it pretty heavy. Yeah. But up until then, it was kind of touch and go.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So did you study with Lori Frink at NEC?
I did. Yeah. Studied with her for about 2 years before she passed.
Wow. What was that like?
Yeah. It was amazing. I mean, of all the trumpet teachers I've ever had, she was definitely the most personally and humanly in touch with herself and her students. And also, I would say definitely the most organized with her teaching. You know, you showed up to a lesson and you really felt like, one, she remembered, two, she was keeping you in check, and three, she really cared. She cared about your progress and your personal development.
Cool.
Yeah. And, you know, I've had other teachers up to that point give me like their philosophy and their breakdown of their teaching methodology, but Lori was the most clear and defined with it. And also just gave me a huge building block for my fundamentals to keep building my fundamentals off of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've studied a lot out of Flexus. Like Flexus has like been my go-to since like 2008. Somebody told me about it, and I started working out of it. And it was like right after I graduated from my undergrad. And I had a great teacher who was big into fundamentals as well. But it wasn't until I started really working on the Flexus stuff that like my whole ability on the horn completely changed. I mean, it was like,
yeah,
kind of insane. I don't know how much of it can be attributed to like I was playing way too many hours every day when I was in college, and then like when I graduated, I wasn't so fatigued all the time, and so my range went up like a fourth. You know, it was kind of nuts. It was like I was in the like C to D range, and then all of a sudden I'm playing E's and F's and F sharps and G's, sort of G's. Not until Youngblood. Then Youngblood, it was all necessity, right? It was just like, you have to do this thing where you tongue a bunch of G's, so then you have to figure out how to do it. And in a lot of ways, that was so great for me, because it was like, all right, here's what you have to do. Figure it out. But the Flexus stuff really kind of took my playing to the next level. It's really, and I always kind of wished that I had a chance to take a lesson with Lori, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. The Flexus book is really great. I always recommend that to like, you know, students and stuff, but it's really the thought behind it and getting introduced to it in a slow manner that makes it all that stuff like super lasting.
Right.
But what exercise could you pick, like a favorite or a couple favorite exercises?
Oh yeah, 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 oh yeah. That
right.
And what I started doing was I mean, like she has this too in the book, but you know, you do it in octaves, you do it in tenths, you do it like all over the horn, and then I started adding note bends to it. So I'd be like, do and I'd be doing note bends, half step note bends with each changed note. You know, so just kind of like added the note bends into the like that chromatic lip slur exercise.
Right.
So I do that every single day. I've done a whole bunch of the like crescendo, decrescendo, lip trill things. The ones that I do every day are like the note bending and that lip slur exercise, pretty much. Now,
yeah,
it's distilled it down to those things. But it's like I've worked out of that book pretty extensively.
Right. Nice.
This isn't a trumpet show either, man. We don't have to.
Oh, come on.
I was like, resist the urge to ask Kai how to play high notes. Resist the urge to ask Kai how to play high notes.
I could talk about trumpet and gear and nerdy shit all day long, man.
Yeah, I talked to some. I don't remember who I talked to. They're like, I took a lesson with Kai, man, and it's like I'm playing high notes better now. You know.
That's dope.
I don't remember who it was. Somebody
That's
talked
good.
to you.
Yeah, that's
I wanted to ask
cool.
you, like, you talked about the music business not being a meritocracy. I wanted to talk to you about like the relationship between being a performer and being an artist, and like how you identify. Like I see you like when I see like videos of you on Instagram, which are like snapshots of little things, but like, you know, I see you both as like this badass player and somebody who's really putting on a show, who's like performing. Like do you like, are you intentional about that as a performer? Do you feel like that's a part of your higher ability?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that is part of our responsibility as a musician, to put on a show, to make people forget about their troubles, about their day job, about, you know, all that stuff. And you want to, especially when I'm playing like a fun show versus a serious wedding, whatever, even on the weddings, you want to give people permission to be goofy. So I remember hearing that from like Jim Carrey from his interview. Like he's so over the top that it gives people permission to laugh and feel goofy too. So, you know, not like all music is goofy, but in general, if you're having a good time, the audience is having a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like that applies to art music too? I mean, I don't know if like, is there a difference between art music and entertainment music? I don't know. Like probably not, but
right. Like is art music, could that just be not like I have my nose in the air about stuff, but I feel like there's a lot of music that is kind of elitist, and there's a lot of jazz musicians that think, well, if it's not jazz, if it's not bebop and it doesn't have changes, then it's not important to me. Right. But jazz and its creation was all about entertainment. It was all about people going out and drinking and having a good time and doing debaucherous things, whatever. And then it became institutionalized, and now it's become sterile, and now it has a formula to it, to the education and everything. So, you know, deep down, we're all humans and we all just want to have a good time.
Yeah.
We want to enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. That was one of the, like, we started this band, Nookie Jones, in Minneapolis. It was like kind of R&B, neo soul band. And we were all like, you know, a bunch of us held degrees in music. And the whole idea was like, let's do a band that we're not beholden to this like, you know, academic approach to music making. Like, let's put on a show. Let's make people feel good. Let's also incorporate like cool stuff musically that we know, but let's do it in a way that like, let's package it so that people enjoy themselves. Let's wear matching outfits. Let's do dance moves. You know what I mean? It's like that became a big part of what that band was and why I think that band became so successful. And so it's like, obviously I think there's wiggle room and there's a lot of crossover. And like you said, man, I've said this a bunch about jazz, that like a lot of those early groups, even in the bebop era, it's like Dizzy Gillespie was an entertainer, and like, you know, you listen to like Clifford Brown, Max Roach band, and there's like transitions between tunes, and there's like worked out sections and worked out banter between tunes, jokes being told. It's like a lot of these guys were like stand-up comedians on the microphone. It's like we've really lost that entertainment piece of the music, and it's become this like either you're reading out of a real book as background music at a restaurant, which is ultimately probably what killed the music in the end, or you're turning around to the band and telling jokes to the band and everybody's laughing on stage, or you're talking about the tune, or you're rehearsing the tune on the stage rather than engaging with the audience and talking about what's coming and telling them what to listen for, and these like easy softball things that you could do to kind of loop your audience into your music if it's less overtly entertaining,
Right. Yeah, exactly. Telling a story, making it feel personal, bringing the human back in there. I remember this experience in college. I went to the Lily Pad in Boston, and I went to go see, I won't say who it is, but one of the staple performers there, who's like, an amazing musician. And he started his tune by saying, this one's called blah, blah, blah. It consists of minor seconds, major thirds, and perfect fourths. And the form is like this. And of course he slayed the shit. And he knows his audience. It's a lot of like Berkeley and NEC guys with their phones out, like, so that entertains them. But I was like, oh my God, this is why the public doesn't come see jazz.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Like the nerdiest breakdown, and it was hilarious, but at the same time I was like, okay, you shouldn't be teaching the kids this.
Yeah I watched a video of you with Arturo Sandoval with the Disney band, like the Disney, what is that, the Disney college jazz band or whatever.
That's
gone. Like first that's gone now, right?
Is it gone?
I think like Disney got rid of that.
Yeah, apparently there was like that big, they said they were taking it out, and then everyone from the college band like posted on their stories and everything, like bring it back, and here's all my great memories from it. Then they released some other article saying they were going to actually bring it back. So,
so they are bringing it back, or they just got a lot of backlash, and so they're.
Yeah, I mean, the best part of that band, the thing holding it all together, was really Ron McCurdy. You need that person who's going to work with the kids, talk to the people, put the music together, rehearse it, be the person in between the studio musicians and the students. Yeah. So that takes a special person to do that.
Yeah. So you had a good experience with that? Do you feel like that led to some opportunities for you doing that?
Yeah, man, that was a huge experience. That was definitely one of the most fun summers I've ever had as a student or working musician. And then from that, I met Chris Ott and I met Dan White, who, they do the Hunter Tones band, but then me and Chris, are doing Shaghorns now.
Cool.
And that's, and then Dan is playing with us as much as possible in that band. So it was really kind of the beginning. It was kind of one of my New York horn section nuggets that kind of stuck together.
Cool.
Through the years.
One of the thoughts I had watching you play with Arturo was like where does confidence come from? Like I was just talking with Roy McGrath in Chicago about fear in music and how musicians aren't fearless, but we're accustomed to being in fear. You're standing next to like one of the all-time great trumpet players, and like visually you look very calm, you look confident. So where does your confidence come from as a musician?
Well, without giving a crazy spiritual answer right off the bat, I did, like the year prior to that, I actually took lessons with him in LA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went out. We were both playing the Flip Oaks Wild Thing trumpet, and through the website, there was a promotion for anyone playing those trumpets to take lessons with him for $110 an hour. Wow. And yeah, so stayed with my uncle down in LA, and I was practicing my ass off for the whole month, writing everything down. And my personal experience with him, like in the practice room at his house, he was a super sweet, very caring, hands-on guy. Of course, like, very machismo, very confident and all of that. And he was teaching me that kind of stuff too. But, yeah, I mean, he was my idol from like a young age. I watched like a VHS tape of him playing, and I watched that like over and over again in 6th grade. So, personally from my interactions with him, I just felt very confident standing next to him. And I was like, yeah, you're going to school me. Like, whatever, like school me, but I'm going to try to play my ass off too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
What about the spiritual answer?
The spiritual answer. I mean, I think Miles said it best when he was like, before every show, I just look in the mirror and I say, you are the baddest motherfucker out here. And you just got to build up your ego like that. And you got to know, like, you got to dress up the ego and you got to undress the ego. And it's totally just, the ego is just an outfit that, just like wearing funny shades on stage, I'm not Liberace, but I can pretend I'm Liberace sometimes.
Sure. The ego is an outfit that you put on and take off.
Right. Yeah.
The confidence can be, that's such an interesting idea. I mean, because like, you go to the practice room and you want to be real with yourself, right? Be like, what do I suck at?
Right,
so
right.
Like, there has to be a certain level of self-awareness.
Of course. Yeah.
But it's like you can't, like, being on stage and performing is not the time for massive self-awareness and self-doubt.
No. But it always creeps in there somehow, depending on what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with it? Have you been in a situation where it's crept in and you're performing, and how do you get out of your own head?
I mean, I feel good to say, like, that happens less and less these days.
Yeah.
On the situations where it happens, it's in those situations where I'm not sure if I'm prepared, like I'm not sure if I completely memorized Lou Soloff's solo from Spinning Wheel, or I'm not sure if I can hit a high G sharp at the end of a 3-hour big band session. I had this recording session. Probably I was on the spot more than I'd ever been before, with Ray Chu and this big band. And we were recording music for the 4th of July fireworks for NBC.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I was on lead for that session, and there was nothing below like a G on top of the staff. Everything was like ridiculous, like ledger line kind of stuff.
Outrageous.
And yeah. And we started at 10 in the morning, which is like my worst time to start playing trumpet.
Yeah.
And I had a heavy workout the night before, so like my abs were feeling tired and everything was just kind of giving up. But I stuck it out, and it turned out to be like an amazing session. Got the high notes at the end.
Yep.
And, was about to pass out, and he was like, good, that's the take. But, I wasn't ready for like the pace that we went at. He was going like, he was doing sections probably 8 to 10 times and then taking a small break. So yeah,
8 to 10 times.
Yeah, man. Because he was doing like, he wasn't individually tracking sections. Right. He was, he was doing the full band take. And if somebody was like a little bit out of tune or the feel wasn't quite right. So I was getting chopped out, and I was like, mentally just trying to stay in the game on that. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just getting rid of this call.
All good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. That's a, when I record my big band, it's like we'll do 3 or 4 passes at each section, not 8 to 10.
Yeah, he was rehearsing them about like 4 or 5 times, and then we do another like 4 or 5 takes.
But this is the first time everyone's seen the music, so it's like you're in there, you're reading, or at least first time you were all playing together?
First time we were all playing together. Yeah, we got the parts ahead of time, but even still, it was nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So preparedness is a factor in being, I don't know, nervous, being present, being able to overcome mental obstacles.
Right. Like, I know it's probably old school to say, but if you can just if you get the shit ahead of time and you just practice it to death until you can play it like the back of your hand, there's nothing holding you back from feeling like a bull on the gig.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that was one of the things I had written down here was like, is it just preparedness? Is it just practice that makes you feel confident? It's like, I've thought about that a lot. So I've had students that have dealt with nerves and like inability to perform, literal shaking.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, what's the answer?
Right. I think it's a physical, as long as you're staying on top of, you're checking all the boxes, you feel physically good, you're drinking plenty of water, your diet isn't weighing you down, or you're eating enough kind of stuff. Yeah.
You talked about a heavy workout. Are you working out a bunch? You staying fit? Is that a part of your routine?
I definitely go through phases. So January, I did about 3 weeks of martial arts. And then February, I was doing 5 or 6 nights a week of gigs. So, I was getting my chest chops in shape, not my triceps.
Right. There you go.
Yeah, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
I feel like fitness has helped me a lot, just in terms of my confidence. It's been a big factor, some of those lifestyle changes has been a big factor in like not second guessing myself, being confident, moving in the direction where I think I should go, putting myself out there, all those things, getting gigs with a big artist and then being like, all right, I can do this. I deserve this opportunity. I'm here for this. It's like that mentality rather than the like, do I deserve this? The like inner voice that can kind of chip away at you.
Yeah, man.
Fitness has been a big factor, I think, in
that's great.
In that. Staying fit, staying active,
Yeah. Is that just physically feeling strong, feeling your best? Or is that
I feel like physically feeling strong definitely is a factor. It's like I don't know if it's like a macho thing. I don't think it's a macho thing, but it is like when you feel strong, it's like you feel like you can do anything. You feel like you can. It's kind of like I remodeled my basement recently, and I built a wall for the first time, and we like put a wall in, and we put drywall in, and I was like, I can do anything. I could build a fucking wall.
Yeah, bro.
I can do anything. Doing that made me feel like I could do anything, and it feels similar. Like lifting weights is like you feel strong. It's like you look at yourself, you're like, I can see changes happening. It's like, man,
man,
I feel confident.
Yeah,
it's
dude.
Like, it's maybe I don't know. It's like. It's like it borderlines on douche, it's like it gets real close to being douchey, but it's also like, man, it's really done wonders for like anxiety and like self-doubt, confidence.
That's great. Yeah. I get the same feeling from doing my taxes.
Yeah, I can do anything.
Right. Or like making a sandwich sometimes, Oh, I made my sandwich today. I didn't go to the deli and get it made for me.
Yeah, right. Man, I do so much cooking. That is a huge part of my life, cooking food for my family.
That's great.
Well, my wife kind of taught me everything I know, but now it's like I do a lot of the cooking,
Yeah.
And it is fun. It's fun to make something awesome. And my son's allergic to dairy, so it's like got to do a lot of vegan stuff,
Wow. That probably keeps you pretty healthy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I love chocolate too, so it's hard. It's a tough trade-off.
Right.
Cool. Well, what's going on? What do you got coming up? What I wanted to ask is, we kind of touched on this. Like, what's full-time trumpet player. What's a typical week look like for you?
A typical week. It depends what the season is, but I'll tell you, like, let's say springtime when it's not super crazy.
Yeah.
I might have about 5 gigs in a week, and maybe 4 or 5 of those or 4 of those are weddings, let's say.
Wow.
And the toughest part about that is getting out of Manhattan, is driving out of the city, getting to like Lakewood, New Jersey. Usually on average traffic, it's about like an hour and a half to get anywhere of driving. So like physically it's kind of exhausting to sit there on the way there and the way back.
So what's the benefit of living in Manhattan then? Like, why not live in New Jersey?
Why not live in New Jersey? Well, you can't just like get on the train all that easy and go out for a night out.
Yep.
You can't walk across the street sometimes and get like a $7 turkey sandwich on a Hero. There's a lot of convenience that comes with living in the city.
Yeah.
So yeah, but then again, after the pandemic, I was like, I'm not playing so many local shows anymore. Like I'm either driving out of the city or I'm flying out or whatever. So I'm thinking, I've been looking on Zillow and all that. And I'm like, okay, what's next?
Yeah. Think about buying a house?
Thinking about it, thinking about that, or just like upgrading my rental situation.
Yeah.
Things are pretty great right now. I can practice I can practice all day long and play as loud as I want.
That's nice.
Yeah, got a lot of space and one other roommate. So, it's pretty good, but we're always looking for something a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting that real estate game, man.
Why not?
Airbnb a basement or something?
Sure. Yeah. Get a little shed and sell it for $40 a night.
There you go, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So what's coming up for you now? What do you got going on?
Still got a lot of weddings on the horizon. We're booking up Shaghorns into the summertime. Not to get off track of the question, but so the last 2 years, I was playing with Ripe and doing a lot of traveling, a lot of touring and stuff.
Yep.
And this crossroads I was finding myself at was like kind of, and I'm sure you feel the same way sometimes, is getting too many good opportunities and not knowing which ones to take. And there's no wrong answer to it. As long as you feel good about your decision, that's good. But you need to make a decision. You need to keep moving forward. So I kind of found this crossroads with that touring with Ripe and the scheduling and everything. And my schedule was kind of working like a jigsaw puzzle at the time. So I kind of had to make a decision to say, all right, well, I can't be your full-time guy, even though I love doing the gigs. I love putting on a show, dancing around, and all that stuff. But I was like, I'm working almost every night locally for good cash. So, I got to make a decision, and I can't be letting people down, especially the older you get, the better you get, the more professional you get. Letting people down and subbing out is really like a no-go.
Right. You don't want to be known as somebody that's going to bail on the gig.
Yeah.
All the time.
Right.
And you stop getting the gig.
Yeah. Like your word and your professionalism is just as important as your ability to show up and play. So, yeah.
Cool. Man. So, people can follow you on Instagram. We'll link your Instagram in the show notes. Is there something else you want me to link?
No, the Instagram's great. I got an old website. It's just my name, kaisandoval.com, but
Cool.
I haven't updated that in a couple years. So
Yeah, I checked it out. It looked like a bunch of videos from like when you were in college. So I was like, I gotta go back to his Instagram,
yeah,
do my research on his Instagram.
right. Yeah, I
Cool.
kind of feel like the old resume is a little bit it's a little bit too old school these days.
Well, yeah, I mean, I go
stuff.
back and forth on like what it's like we were. I mean, at least me, I was on MySpace. That was like big, and now it's gone. And so I do think like you build up a huge following on Instagram, you build up a huge following on TikTok. TikTok's like you build up a huge following on TikTok, and the government bans TikTok in the United States, and you haven't moved that audience to your website, or you haven't moved that audience to an email list. You just lost all this work you did. Like so I do think about that. Like, man, it's still important. I look at my website stats, and it's like I still got hundreds of people visiting my website, and I'm like, damn, I should be like updating this, making sure that there's current material on it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't want to. I feel the same way about you. It's like everybody just wants to go to the socials, but it is interesting. Like, do you really have? I don't know. From like a DIY artist standpoint, I think about being able to reach your audience, and like, do you really have an audience you can reach on those platforms? Is it more streamlined to reach them via email? Is it more streamlined to reach them? Are they more likely to buy something if it's through your website, if it's through email rather than through Instagram? Are they more likely to click away from Instagram or not? Like, are they likely to click away from Instagram or not? And I think a lot of times the answer is no. It's like if you're trying to get someone to click to go listen to a podcast episode, for instance, or to go buy a new merch item, it's like I think you're more likely to have that happen in an email than in Instagram. Anyways, follow Kai's Instagram, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. No, Instagram is kind of like, the easy way to go. But on those thoughts, I am getting like all my videos backed up, and I'm thinking, okay, I need to start going through that and putting stuff on YouTube, all my old stuff,
Yeah, and then you build a following on YouTube. At least that's a following. At least you can monetize. Ad. You can monetize with ad revenue. It may not be life-changing money, but it could be a couple $100 a month. It's like goes a long way.
Yeah, it's always something. As long as it's
always something.
Yeah, man.
And there's always something else to do, man. It's like in this world, it's always like I gotta do that too. I should get my stuff up for sync licensing. Oh, I wanted to ask you about this thing you're doing. You're like layering flugelhorns on beats. Do you have more of that stuff coming? I just saw a video of you doing that. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's a friend of mine, Corey Boris, and he's producing and stuff. He's not like so well known right now, but he's working really hard on it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the direction I want to be going for my like producing content.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to get those gears in motion to like have a few producer friends that are sending me beats, and I'm like, layering stuff on, recording. And that's kind of instead of like writing a symphony or writing a big band chart, that's kind of how I see my creative flow going at the moment.
Cool.
Like always like bite-sized, manageable kind of pieces. Actually the guys at Royer reached out through a hashtag.
Cool.
And yeah, they gave me a call and they wanted me to make like a promotional video for them. And I was like, yeah, like promoting their 121 mic.
121. Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, this is something I've been thinking about for a really long time. And if I had all this content ready to go, then I could just send it to them. But this is a reason why I need to be making this content on a regular basis.
I saw that you were recording on a Royer 414. Is that right? So 414?
I don't know what that
like famous stick. That was like that famous stick ribbon mic, right?
It's that one's a 121.
Oh, that one's a 121. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a dope mic.
So sponsorship, I was going to ask, like, you have 10,000 plus followers on Instagram. Are sponsors reaching out yet? Like, and is that the first time that's happened?
It's happened a couple times with mouthpieces, stuff like that. But
yeah,
and also like this like Swedish company that makes this device called the AeroFit, which is like it syncs up to a Bluetooth thing on your phone, and it's like a breath trainer. Yeah, I never got around to like making any videos, which, probably isn't, I'm not very good at selling the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, when it comes to the sponsorships, I feel like it's a double-edged sword. Like you have to play this equipment and show it off.
Yep.
But then again, like your ears are always changing and your body's changing. So what feels good one day might not feel good a year later. So I kind of, it's tough to commit to only Bach or only Yamaha.
Yeah, Youngblood's sponsored by Jupiter, and so every tour it'd be like I'd be playing this Jupiter for a couple of weeks leading up the tour, just trying to get used to playing this horn that I don't know what I should say about this. Whatever. It's a Jupiter trumpet, it is what it is. It was really cool that we went to the factory in France and they were like, pick out anything you want. It was boatloads of horns.
That's nice.
It was fun. They were kind.
What horn did you end up going with?
I don't know, man. It's got gold trim. It looked cool.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I don't remember the bore size. I'm not much of a gear guy.
Okay.
Just kind of play stuff. I think it was a small bore trumpet, which I didn't realize when I got it, and then I was dealing with a whole bunch of back pressure issues because I was used to a larger bore size.
Gotcha.
And so that's ultimately why I had to play it for like weeks leading up to tours, because I had to like completely adjust how hard I blew compared to my Edwards.
Yeah. I feel like we're probably off the at this point we're just off the podcast.
We're talking trumpet now, baby.
We're just no, exactly.
I put it all on, man. This is sometimes the best stuff. Like at the end when everybody's like, okay, we're not recording anymore, then all the best shit comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just said no. I always just keep recording.
Right. So you playing your Edwards religiously now?
Yeah, I play the X13. Like they reached out about being like sponsoring me years ago. They're like, we're watching what you're doing. We'd like you to come and check out some horns. And so I did that, and I got it at like a big discount, and I like it a lot. And they do have an avenue for like if you do a guest artist gig, you can like submit that you're doing the gig, and then they'll like seed the gig with a few $100s or whatever.
Oh,
but you have to like fill out a form and enter all your dates in advance, and I'm just not good at that. It's like I have all these guest artist things that I do. I was at Indiana State University a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like going down to Houston, going down to Arizona. I'm like got all this stuff coming up because people play my big band charts, and like I'll work with high schoolers for a couple of days, and then they'll do a concert, and I'll be the guest soloist on the concert. And it's always super fun, and it's like a high energy couple of days, and people always ask me about my horn. And so, like, Edwards is getting plenty out of it. I know for sure people have bought X13s because of me, but, like, I've never submitted any of my events and gotten paid by Edwards for doing the events.
Sure.
So that's stupid. That's money that I'm leaving on the table.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit like that I got to fucking get together, man.
Yeah, it seems like you got that most of that organization good enough together that you could get paid for that pretty easily.
Yeah, I should. It's there's a lot of I shoulds though. It's like I've got a huge catalog of original music that all should be uploaded to licensing databases, and I haven't done that yet. I finally registered everything with ASCAP, so it's like I'm chipping away at it, man. It's like my lifestyle stuff too. It's like I'm chipping away at it. I like quit drinking alcohol, started working out all the time. It's like I'm chipping away at the things that I've kind of felt like I should be doing all along.
Right.
It's like one thing at a time, man. It's only so much one person can handle. I'm running a whole jazz program, and like running the tech startup with Gig Boss, and like it's a lot of stuff, and like trying to maintain a high level as a player and as an artist. It's like, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, of all the people doing all the juggling, man, you're doing a lot of it. There's a lot of people who are like, I won't say the most. I don't know. I can't compare. But you see a lot of people trying to juggle the online presence sort of thing, and they put all their eggs in that basket. And you hear them as a player, and you're like, well, you're not backing it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
People who are like, really let me show you how to sell your ebooks, and you want to, quadruple your income as an educator, like just take my free Zoom session.
Yeah.
That shit gets on my nerves.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's like a lot of people are now coming to me like, how do I release my album? Like, what should I do leading up to it? Because I've been doing a lot of this research and have been talking to a lot of people about it on the podcast. And so now I'm becoming like somebody who people think of and they reach out, and I've just been meeting with people for free. Like, I don't charge people anything. But now it's starting to become this thing like, man, should I make like a video and sell it? And like, I don't know. but I feel the same way about it. Like we're inundated with courses to purchase and
Yeah. Yeah, I've been off or on the record, whatever. I've been kind of conflicted about like my direction with social media. Like I kind of feel like the way I built up a following was by giving out information for free. And on one hand, it feels like, well, even if you really absorb what I'm telling you and you become a better player than me, whatever, I'm secure in my gigs. I'm not worried about you like stealing my gigs. So that's why it's like kind of like a flex in that way.
Ultimate confidence. Yeah. Ultimate confidence. Here's everything. I don't care if you have the information I have.
Right.
I want you to have the information that I have.
Yeah.
I mean, in some way it's like, that's how I feel. It's like, I want you to be successful. I want to learn this stuff myself and then give it to you so that you can be successful.
Right.
Because this shit is hard.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And like, there's so much information out there. Like, who's going to pay you like $20 a month unless you've really like, probably people like you and maybe some other people have invested like hundreds and hundreds of hours into creating content. So now you have something to sell. But people like me, like I don't have like the time or the focus to be doing all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's tough to get like a huge bank of information ready to sell.
Yeah. I mean, the whole social media thing really ebbs and flows with me too. Like where I'll go super hard for a while and then I'll just get burnt out. I'll just be like, man, this sucks. You know, it's like, what am I doing? Yeah. And I'll do some real life thing. I'll do some stuff in real life and I'll be like, this is what it's about. Yeah. I'm out here playing. I'm putting on shows. Yeah. I'm meeting people. I'm going out to shows. I'm connecting with people in real life. And I feel like, why do I even need that at all? But then there's opportunities that come out of it. It's like a visibility thing. It's almost, I don't know if it's necessary or not. Actually, one of the questions I had written down here to ask you is like, does social media matter for getting gigs? It's like,
that's that's a super important question. Yeah. Do you want me to answer like I'm
sure, man?
Okay. I'll give you a small backstory. Like a year into being in New York, I was playing a lot of different like little shows and stuff. And I think I had the realization I was playing at like Williamsburg Music Hall or some other small kind of like jazz kind of group, jazz place. And there was probably 10 people in the audience, and the band was about like 6 people. And I was thinking, you know what? I'd rather just stay home and practice and film myself practicing than play these gigs for like 10 people. Because, at the time I was like, I can get like 300 or 400 views on something. Yeah. And that's a whole lot more views than 10 people not taking videos. Yep. And so, that switch, investing that time back into practicing and taking videos, sharing information with people, that was huge. And yeah, it was huge for putting myself out there. And it's definitely a constant upkeep of staying relevant and staying at the forefront of people's minds who are hiring. Yeah, exactly, man. It's like people think of you then when they do things. It's like, I certainly notice that when I talk about education related things, when I talk about building my program here at the university and like what I'm doing as a player, what I'm doing as an educator, what I'm doing as a writer. It's like, if I'm documenting those things in a visible way, then I'm getting those calls, man. It's like, I wondered, it's like the pandemic hit. I also moved away from the city I was in. So I was like,
am I going to be doing as many guest artist gigs as I was? Like I was doing a ton between January and May every year. It was like a big income generator for me and just like a great experience. And I would sell a shitload of merch to the students. And, you know, it's like, is this going to continue after the pandemic hits? And it's like, sure enough, man, we're firing on all cylinders again.
Yeah.
And I do think a part of that is like staying in the public eye, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I gotta say, dude, like I love the merch. I love the design, and it's ballsy,
Thanks.
but I like it, and especially doing it in tandem with like whatever clinics you're doing, or like working with like young people. That's like the perfect combination right there.
Yeah. Well, like with my merch, it's like I've got 15 CDs I've recorded. So I have like a suitcase full of CDs. I have posters that I printed for like previous album releases, and I have snap bracelets and stickers. And so I've got this like light up suitcase that I bring, and I open it and the lights turn on, and that's all my shit.
Nice.
And then I'll just give stickers away, or like I'll give snap bracelets away if people buy CDs. It's like CDs are what they are now. It's like, you know, depending on where you go, not a lot of people are probably going to buy them, but a lot of people bought posters at the last thing I did. You know, it's like they went, "Oh, this is cool. Who did this?" And it's like I had it. Do you know Dave Chisholm?
Yeah, I've heard the name quite a lot. But...
yeah, it's like the trumpet player, composer, and like a graphic novelist.
Okay.
You know,
That's
he did
sick.
like Chasing the Bird, Charlie Parker in California, and he did Enter the Blue.
Okay.
Which are like jazz comics. Enter the Blue was done in collaboration with Blue Note Records.
Oh wow!
So he's like really hit the big time as a graphic novelist, and I commissioned him to do like a. Actually, I have it right here.
Oh yeah, that's dope. Does that say Ayo?
So it says. It says AMO, like Adam Meckler Orchestra.
Oh, sick.
In my hair. I used to have really long hair.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, could you just do like a thing with me playing trumpet, and it says AMO in it?
That's sick.
And so that's the original. And then I made copies of it and printed it on nice poster board or whatever. And it's like, that's what I sell. That's my one poster.
That's dope.
But yeah, it's like I would do $300-$400 in merch after those shows. I mean, it's like I there was a point in time when I felt like, is this too much? Is this too narcissistic to have so much merch? And I was like, fuck that, man. I'm doing $400 in merch in North Dakota. Like, of course I'm going to do this, you know?
Yeah. No, make that money.
This is a no-brainer. I should be doing it. And like Youngblood was a big eye-opener too, because like Youngblood will do $1,100 in merch after a show. It's like, holy shit. Every night, $1,100 in merch?
That's
posters, vinyl, CDs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's like one. That's like one used Bach on eBay.
One used Bach, one Bach 37.
Right, you're right.
All right, man. I don't have to keep any more of your time, dude. This was awesome. Thanks for chatting.
No, it's great to meet you and talk with you, man. It was great.
Yeah. Likewise, man.
Cool.
It was fun. Thanks for the inspiration. I dig the T-shirt too.
Likewise. Thank you, man. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for listening to my conversation with Kai Sandoval. If you dig the show, please tell a friend and maybe post your favorite episode on social media and talk about why you like it. If you tag us, we'll repost it. Follow the show wherever you listen. So if you're listening on YouTube, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening on Spotify, you can hit the plus sign. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can follow us there. That kind of stuff is what helps the show grow and what helps it show in other people's feeds. We want to keep this thing going, and we appreciate you all supporting what we're doing here. If you're a performing musician, especially somebody who leads your own bands and freelances in other bands, the Gig Boss app is a really valuable tool. You can create groups and create events and tag the groups to the events that you create. People get invites that they can accept and decline, and they can see all the details of the gig, including linking charts and recordings in the notes section and all kinds of stuff. It's a great way to keep everything in one place. I spent my career kind of like sifting through email chains, 50 emails long, crazy long text threads, looking for details of the gig as I was like changing diapers and passing off kids to my wife and running out the door to a gig. It was really hectic and difficult to manage everything, so we wanted to build a tool to help musicians organize their careers. Gig Boss is there now. It's free. It's on iOS and Android. Give it a download and check it out. I'd love to know what you think. Adam at gigboss.com. Thank you so much for listening. Appreciate you guys.